The HTML helpers we saw in the last video are basically built-in functions that come with ColdBox to help streamline building layouts and views for you. There are three other features in ColdBox that take that idea a step farther. They are helper UDFs, layout helpers, and view helpers, and we're going to take a look at all three in this video. Helper UDFs are basically CF includes, but just for your views and layouts. The idea is you build a CFM file with nothing in it but function definitions. And when you enable this feature, those functions are automatically available to you in your views, layouts, handlers, or all three. This is really useful when you're migrating legacy CFML apps over to ColdBox. If you've got an older app with various libraries of functions that your app will need to use, you can create an application helper, which will make those functions automatically visible in your entire application, all the views, layouts, and handlers anyway. So there's no need to write a bunch of CF include statements all over your view files, for example. You tell ColdBox, grab all the functions in these files and load them into memory, and it's done with one setting in your ColdBox CFC config file. In ColdBox CFC, you have two settings, Application Helper and Views Helper. You can see mine on lines 27 and 28. They'll both take a path to some CFM file in your application. You can even pass a comma-separated list of multiple files if you've got a bunch of different things you want to include. So here in our ColdBox CFC, we've got Application Helper and Views Helper. And you can see they both point to CFM files in our Includes Helpers folder, which is sort of the default location for these sorts of files. I'm going to go here to the Explorer, take a look at that folder, Includes Helpers. Here's our Application Helper. And you can see inside there I have one function called say hello, and there's a note in this file that says all the methods in this file will be available in all of your handlers, views, and layouts in the application. I've also got a views helper file in here. You can see it's got a function there called say goodbye. And as the name might imply, things in this file will be available in all of the views in your application. So I'm including both of those in my ColdBox CFC. When you make this change, make sure you reload ColdBox before using these changes so that they're loaded into memory and ColdBox refreshes everything. It's got the changes ready for you. So Application Helper has say hello. Views Helper has say goodbye. Here's my user CFC handler that we've seen in the previous videos. There's nothing in here, so you can see we're not having to configure the Application Helper or View Helper in this file at all. Let's go straight to the views. And down here in our views, I'm going to take a look at users list, which is the page we're looking at in our web browser. And in users list, you can see I'm calling the say hello method at the top of that file, which comes right out of our application helper. And towards the bottom of that file, I'm calling say goodbye, which comes out of our views helper. I don't have to do any other CF include functionality in here. There's no RC or PRC scope or anything else like that that happens. All we have to do is go to our ColdBox CFC file, include those two CFM templates here, reload ColdBox, and those functions are now available in the case of the views helper in our views, or in the case of our application helper, I can call it in my view like I'm doing here, but I could also call say hello in my layouts or my handlers if I need to. And here's an example of the functions being called in action. Both of these are in the view. There's our say hello function being called from the application helper. And here's the say goodbye function coming from the views helper. So you can see they both work. Let's take a look at those functions again. There's nothing special about the contents of these functions. There's no RC or PRC scope or anything like that happening there. Same thing with the views helper. These are plain ColdFusion functions, which is why these are great places to put functionality from a legacy CFML app that you're trying to migrate over to ColdBox. You don't have to do anything to those CF functions that you have in your existing code base. Simply copy and paste them, put them into these helpers, add those helpers into your app using the ColdBox CFC, reload ColdBox, and that functionality will be available to you either just in the UI portions of your app in your views, or you can have them available to the entire application. The choice is up to you, just depending on where you need that functionality available in your new ColdBox version of your application. Layout helpers are the same idea as the helper UDFs we just looked at. The only difference is layout helpers are specific to a layout in your application. Code in them only runs in a specified layout or in views that are rendered underneath that layout. Layout helpers also live in the same folder as the layouts themselves, instead of in that include helpers folder that we saw earlier. You can have a layout helper that is specific to just one layout, or you can name it after the folder that contains several layouts, and the helper will load and be available to run for any of the layouts in that folder. Over here on the left, I've got my layouts folder, and it's pretty similar to what we've seen in the previous videos, except I've added this general folder underneath it, and inside there we have some layouts. Here's the PDF layout we saw in a previous video. Here's the plain layout that we saw in a previous video, and so on. And you'll notice I've got a plain.cfm file, that's our layout from before, and I have plain helper.cfm. I'm going to open that up, and I'll open up the layout itself, put these next to each other so you can see them. Here's our layout. I've done nothing different in the layout file itself. This is the exact same layout we saw in the previous videos. Plain helper is named that because that's the naming convention you use for these layout helpers. You take the name of the layout itself, plain, and simply add the word helper on the end of it. I don't have to wire that up anywhere in ColdBox. That's just default functionality baked in for it here. If I were to put a CF function in this file, reload my application, any CF functions that are in here would automatically be available in my plain CFM layout. So I could call, say I have a say hello function in here. I could call say hello anywhere in this layout file. I don't have to do an include or use the RC scope or PRC scope or anything like that. It will just automatically be available. Here I've got my PDF layout for generating the PDF versions of our site output, or our page outputs rather. And I've got a PDF helper that would work the same way. If I have a function in here called say hello, say goodbye, whatever, that function will automatically be available in the PDF layout, and I can call it here just like I could call any other function in this layout. So again, if I've got a legacy application with UI functionality I need to include in my PDF style layout, put it in PDF helper, and it will automatically be available in the PDF layout. Anything in the plain helper CFM file will automatically be available in the plain layout. We've got one more file in here called general helper. And you can see this is also going to be a place where we store custom CF functions. There's not a general.cfm in here anywhere. However, general is the name of the folder itself. So general helper has the same naming convention as the layout helpers we just saw. Instead of it being named after a layout CFM template, though, it's named after the folder that contains all of those CFM templates. And anything I put in here will be available to any of the layouts in this folder. So I could put a say hello function in general helper, and say hello will automatically be available to my PDF layout and my plain layout. And of course, you want to reload your app to make sure the changes take effect, clear out any caching and that sort of thing before doing this. But that's all you have to do to make sure that your layout helpers work. Put it in here, and this will work for any layout in your general folder. Or if you want to get more specific and have a function available just for the PDF layout, put it in PDF helper. For the plain layout, put it in plain helper. You don't have to have a helper CFM template. If you simply want to have a layout called plain.cfm, have plain.cfm and don't even make a plain helper file, or leave it empty like the one is in this example. Either way will work. Nothing else is required to make this functionality available in your application. It just runs. We can get more specific than layout helpers and use view helpers as well. And as you might have guessed, view helpers are function libraries that will only work for the specified view as opposed to the specified layout. Again, this is most useful when migrating legacy CFML applications over into ColdBox, or if you have maybe a really complex custom user interface of some sort and you need a lot of functions to make that UI behave properly. You can also benefit from this functionality in those situations. Like layout helpers, these need to be named after the specific views they're targeting, or they can be named after the folder that contains that view, just like we saw with layouts, and it will work for any of the views in that given folder. Here we've got our list CFM view that we've seen in the previous videos, and I've got the say hello and say goodbye functions that we saw earlier being loaded in from our helpers via the ColdBox CFC config file. I could also do things like this, where I have a list CFM view and I can have a list helper file in that same folder. I can put CF functions in here and they'll automatically be available to my view. I've also got everything in this users folder. And just like we saw with layouts, I have a users helper CFM template. Any functions I have in here will automatically be available in any of the views in this folder. So I can do the view specific helper like we saw with the layout specific helper, or I can have a helper that is global for anything in that folder. No matter how many views I have underneath the user section, anything in this users helper CFM template will work for all of them. I mentioned earlier that you can have multiple files noted in the application or views helper settings in your Coldbox CFC file. While that's true, if you find you're passing a bunch of files into these settings, or a bunch of folders rather, and including, say, dozens and dozens of different methods, maybe that's a sign that there's a better approach. Typically, an application won't have that many methods that need to be called in the views and layouts from them. You might want to consider refactoring some of this code into a module or a plugin of some kind. The only exception I can think of for that would be when you're migrating a legacy CFML app into Coldbox. During those early stages of migration, when you're just trying to get everything into Coldbox and have the app start running, yes, you might have a bunch of things in your views and helpers at that point, if you had a bunch of things in the original application to begin with in those spots. So in that case, I'd move everything into the view helpers or application helper files to start, and then as soon as possible, I'd start making a plan to refactor those into something a little bit more logical. A new Coldbox module maybe a custom layout or a plugin, whatever happens to make more sense for your app. Also remember that these helper files have to be named with the naming convention we noted earlier, the file or folder, then the word helper.cfm on the end. So make sure that the names of your folders, layouts, and views are pretty well defined before you start adding helpers. If you're still picking new names for things, then you'll have to keep track of what's going on and potentially rename your helper files accordingly as well. There's no rule about using layouts or view helpers. If you have 300 views and only 2 would benefit from view helpers, great. Make 2 files and use helpers for those 2 views. Leave the rest of your stuff as is. That'll be just fine. Coldbox doesn't care how many views or layouts or view helpers you have in your application. Any combination of them that you need, Coldbox will load them up and use them accordingly. One more thing to keep in mind. Make sure the names of the functions in all your helper files are always unique. For example, in your layout helper, if you have a function called getSiteName, don't have a function in your view helper also called getSiteName. That will throw an exception. And lastly, remember that these helper features are bonus items. They'll never be required as part of your Coldbox development. Use them if you're in a spot where they'd give you some sort of benefit, and skip them if they won't help you in any way. You can get more information about helpers of all kinds at the online documentation available at coldbox.ortusbooks.com.